Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Hutchins. I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Association of Nonprofits, and I'm really excited to be with you here on this beautiful July morning in Maine to connect with our fellow nonprofit professionals and volunteers and consultants and board members who are committed to making Maine the great state that it is, with all of the people and visitors, as a great place to live, work, and visit. And I truly believe that at the core of that is our nonprofits that are providing that social infrastructure and committed to making a difference with so many different types of missions across all of our communities. And I get the pleasure and honor today of introducing you to 4 people representing 3 organizations that do incredible work all the time. But today we decided to Kelly and I were wondering what we wanted to do in July, and we were thinking about, well, first of all, don't know about you guys, but 2023 sure seems like we're going more in person, right? After a couple of years of not doing it at all or tentative at best. 2023 seems to be, at least I'm seeing people out and about more often. So we started thinking about in-person events. We, of course, in the summer in Maine is event season of all types. Nonprofits are doing all kinds of events, the fundraisers for sure, but also festivals and whether events in their actual locations or all kinds of different things. Nothing is coming to mind at the moment. It's my summer brain. But in any case, we wanted to take a minute to touch base with a few of our colleagues and see how their events are going, what's inspiring you, what's different since the pandemic changed everything so drastically in 2020. And also really curious, we've been inspired by some of the ways that some of organizations are looking at accessibility and inclusion, as we want to make sure that we create a Maine that is welcoming and a sense of belonging for all people who come to Maine and make their Maine home or visiting. So excited to talk to you about that. Before I do that, I always do like to give a special thanks to our good friends and partners at Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. They are a healthcare provider here in Maine. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard of them, and they are a nonprofit themselves, and they are the genuine real deal in terms of partnering with organizations to make Maine a better place. So thank you to all of our friends at Harvard Pilgrim. Okay, so I'm going to, without too much further ado, I'm going to welcome our first guest, Emily from Spurwink. I know I saw you come in, Emily. Are you there?
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Good
Oh,
morning.
good morning. Where are you calling in from today,
So
Emily?
I am at home I have a home office out of Cumberland, although I am in the office quite a bit, but being a Friday, looking forward to working from home today.
Yes, exactly. That's really nice. So, can you introduce yourself, Emily? You're the director of development at Spurwink, and as I was just saying in introducing, that's one of my favorite things is that we find out about cool things that organizations are doing, and then I take a little deeper dive. And Spurwink has been around since 1960, and
Correct.
right, and the organization has 1,000 employees at
Correct.
this point. It started with serving 8 boys
Yes.
in 1960, and now has 1,000 employees and many, many locations, and serving. The purpose of Spurwink is to support people and their families who need extra support with regards to behavioral health care. And so you offer lots of services. And so I just wanted to set that context, and you are the director of development.
Correct.
And we wanted to give you an opportunity to highlight one of the events that we've noticed that you do every year, the Humanitarian Awards. Would you like to talk a little bit about that event and
Absolutely.
how it works, and how do you had a really interesting theme this year that we were attracted by, and so how do you go about selecting those themes?
Absolutely. Our humanitarian event has been happening since 87. So it's been around for over 36 years. And the purpose is to honor an individual who embodies the values that Spurwink embraces and is looking to serve our community with. And it's changed over the years from a very formal sit down dinner to being more casual. And to me, events are about communication and communicating with the community about the work that's being done so that they understand the importance and why we need community involvement to fulfill the mission. And so we always are looking to adapt and change based on how we can best communicate with those who are going to attend the event or we're looking to attract to be a part of the event. And we have an incredible group of volunteers, because if anybody who does events knows it doesn't happen without volunteers. And so we have an incredible group that's a mix of people who are on our year-round development committee and then people who specifically want to volunteer for the humanitarian, whether or not they've participated or they want to get more involved. And it's volunteers from the community, business leaders, but also we get staff members who like to be engaged. And that's kind of fun to see people who might be in a direct care situation, serving an individual and really being able to bring their voice and be a part of the event. And this past year, the volunteer group, we do a brainstorming session every either late summer or fall, and think about all the different themes that are out there. And the last few years, we've really wanted to do more abstract. So not in prior years, they had done things that were, they did a Casablanca and some other things that are a lot of fun, but we have gone to more abstract that are storytelling is what we're always looking to do. So this year, we moved to a new location of Ocean Gateway Terminal. So we thought to embrace the new location, we wanted to have something nautical and sea-based. And we really loved the prior year we did Mosaic. And so we thought, okay, how do we combine those two? And one of our volunteers came up with sea glass, which we just thought was a beautiful metaphor because, you know, sharp pieces of glass that are tumbled in the ocean, and the individuals that we've served have had hard times and, you know, have gone through a lot. And they're not perfect, but we're looking to be supportive on their journey to better health. And so we thought that was really representational of what Spurwink does, and also just beautiful. You know, in the winter, when we're trying to get people excited about signing up for our event, what better thing to think about sea glass and, you know, a reflective moment, walking on the beach, picking up sea glass. We just thought it set the mood.
Yeah, I really, really love that. And that, you know, traditionally, you know, it's kind of that classic traditional nonprofit fundraiser. You do sort of think of like, oh, these kind of funny themes that give everybody a chance to dress up and do something different, good excuse to wear that funny costume or whatever. And those can be really fun. But I love how, and different, of course, different organizations. Like I used to work for a professional theater. And so we had this advantage, right? You can always have, you know, put on a theatrical event for a fundraiser. So I really love how you were, you really brought the mission into the actual theme, which I think is really, really cool. Kelly pointed out to me in preparing for this that you started working for Spurwink in 2019. And of course, 2020 was a remarkable year. What have you, as someone who plans fundraising events on a regular basis, what are some of the major learnings that you have had through that experience? And what would you say has been the biggest change that you've carried forward as a result of having to everything going topsy-turvy with regards to in-person events in particular?
Absolutely. I mean, I think in some ways, to me, if you go back to the core values, things haven't changed. It's really about connecting people to mission and the values of that organization. And an event is communication. You're trying to connect with people. And so it was just a matter of looking at the landscape and saying, how do we need to communicate in a moment that's topsy-turvy? And then how have people changed coming out of that? And the biggest thing that I see is that people's time has become more valuable. We've all seen how working from home, having more time with our families. So trying to make things more compact and easy accessible. We used to have an event that was on Friday evenings. But people want to start their weekends on Friday evenings. So we switched to doing Thursdays. So it was still part of work. A lot of people are prepared to do something post work. And then we moved the event a little bit earlier, so people come right from work to the event. And then we keep it more casual because everything's gone more casual since COVID in our viewpoint, or at least for our donors and the individuals who are participating in our event have gone more casual. So we really embraced having more of a cocktail, but I also say that where the world is changing and also the people we represent, we also focus on having mocktails and other options and really just making it as accessible as possible in a relaxed environment. But people want to see people and they want to connect because we've missed that from COVID. So having a program, but creating a lot of opportunities for people to engage during the event and not just have a program the whole time.
And so have you found have you found that it felt a little risky with some of these changes? And I'm just curious, like I'm reminding myself of what it was like to do fundraisers, and sometimes making big changes was like, oh, are they going to respond? And I just wondered if you could really talk us through, like, were you pretty confident that this was going to result in more participation, or was there a little bit of like, okay, we're going to change it up this year and cross our fingers, and how did it go type thing?
I think there's always risk involved. And if you're not doing risk with an event or any kind of donor communication, you're not pushing the envelope enough, and creativity and change needs to happen. And so you need to be comfortable with that. And I think our whole team at Spurwink is really comfortable with that, but it's always being cautious too. We really put a lot of focus on building up our sponsorship and our host committee participation so that the funds were really coming in before the event. The bulk of our fundraising comes in before the event. So it's not as risky at the event and you can be a little creative and get feedback and make adjustments. But you just need to be comfortable with risk, and because communication is always changing. Think about, 10 years ago and how now people text all the time. I'm hiring new staff and you're texting, and we used to never text in formal communication, but you have to adapt and change. That's the way things go. And so I think it makes it fun. Otherwise it's boring doing the same event, even for 3 years in a row, let alone 37.
So would you say that Spurwink, with regards to your fundraising events, has gotten pretty engaged with the more contemporary technology of social media? And has that really helped boost your events as opposed to the traditional cardstock invite? Back in the day, it was the fancy invite that went to the VIPs, right? Have you really found that that's been important, that change?
I think it is. I'd love to do more. Technology is expensive, right? And we're a nonprofit. So there are certain ways that we're embracing it, but I think we have opportunities for more, but finding budgets. And one of the things we did decide this year is our budget wise, we couldn't do a video production, and we wanted to, but it was a little more costly. But we found that if you craft a good story and you think about the representation. So in some ways, I think we're embracing more technologies, but then in other ways, I think we're taking steps back and really thinking about people were there to connect, not watch a video about us. They can do that in another format. So thinking about a live event versus virtual. When we did a virtual event, video production was really crucial because that's how we were telling our story.
Excellent. So if you had a piece of advice to share with other fundraisers looking to, and event planners who might be getting ready to, maybe even for the first time, do a big in-person event, Kelly, wink, wink. What would some of your advice be?
Yeah, I actually have two pieces of advice. I was trying to do just one, but two. But one, I think the number one value, which never goes away, is volunteers. It's all about volunteers, hearing their voices, getting their perspectives, having them solve problems. My favorite advice I ever got in my first nonprofit job I applied for, the executive director had said, whenever there's a problem, put a volunteer between you and the problem. And they always come up with so many more creative solutions and ownership and help you solve the problems. So volunteers first and forefront. And then second is it's about your mission. So communicate your mission, always go back to the values that your nonprofit stands for, and make sure in every way you're communicating, whether it's pre-event, during the event, or post-event, mission is forefront and center.
Yeah, that's really great, Emily. And thank you for your time this morning. I want to give you kudos because again, I went a little deeper into Spurwink, learned a little bit about your history, but I also it was very obvious on your website what your values are, and unconditional regard, right? Not self-regard. What's
Unconditional regard for, so we have several different values, but one of them,
yeah.
we work with a wide spectrum. So everything from preschoolers with autism to individuals in nursing home with intellectual disability. And one of the things that I'm inspired about every day, and we try to communicate at our events, is everybody needs to be treated with respect and meet them where they are, because just because you're coming from a different place doesn't mean they're going to meet you there. And so you need to just take a moment, meet them where they are, and help them as best you can, but also the way that they engage with you is meaningful and reflects back upon you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Emily. Again, our little mini theme for events this morning is accessibility and inclusion, and it really starts with that, right? Is giving people a sense that they belong, and that that the space that they're in is a shared safe space, and there's mutual respect. And it's really clear. I encourage all of you, if you're interested, to look. Maybe your organization hasn't articulated your values, and if you want some inspiration, I'd encourage you to check out the spurwink.org website for your values, because it's very clear and inspiring. And so thank you for that. Thank you, Emily. Have a great weekend.
You as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Enjoy your camping.
Oh, thank you. And next I'm going to ask Sarah and Chelsea from Maine Maritime Museum. Hi, you guys.
Hello. Good morning.
Oh, you're literally tag teaming. It's really wonderful to meet the two of you. I'm a Brunswick Dragon, right? So I graduated from Brunswick High School a few years ago. I was so excited to hear that Kelly invited you guys, just because the Maine Maritime Museum and Bath just sort of holds a special place in my heart, you know, Popham Beach and that whole Phippsburg region. And yeah, and so I love your museum anyway. My family are huge history buffs, and so all of that. And then we started talking about accessibility and inclusion, and Kelly started talking about the really cool work you guys are doing. And this is yet again another one of those examples of a little bit of assumptions that we make, because there's a lot of information and opportunity for us to manage every day in our daily lives. And so I have to say, like, I kind of take the Maine Maritime Museum for granted, right? And you make these decisions that it's about old ships. It's about old ships. See the old ship. And I'm going to stop talking for a minute, but I just want to express my enthusiasm for Kelly shared with me a reel on your Instagram, talking about museums for all. And then so I'm inspired by all the work your team is doing, but we specifically asked the two of you to come and talk about your sensory friendly work. And so first, could you please just introduce yourselves so we know your roles at the museum? And then I just would love to have you talk about what sensory friendly means. I had to learn what that term meant, and so I'd love to hear a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Sarah Timm. I'm the Director of Education here at Maine Maritime Museum.
I'm Chelsea Lane. I am the Director of Visitor Experience, here at the museum. And for the record, we are here in the Shipbuilders Gallery, right in the main building. So our sensory friendly hours are aimed at visitors who have sensory sensitivities, which is a very broad category. It's estimated that about 1 in 6 Americans would fall into this umbrella. And so mostly, and basically what that means is people who process sensory input differently from the average person. In a lot of cases, it means that sensory input can be overwhelming. They process it at a higher level or a stronger level, but it can be the opposite. It can be that they process it on a lower level. And so what that means in terms of visiting Maine Maritime Museum is we're trying to think about how to make it so that these folks can come visit us, enjoy the museum, get to check out some of the very cool exhibits that we offer, and not have to worry about whether they might feel overwhelmed, whether they might feel unsafe, whether they can truly enjoy the museum, learn something, and have a wonderful day here with us. So we're approaching that in a couple different ways. The sensory friendly hours are 3 days that we have set over the course of the summer. Our first one was in June. Our next one is actually next week on Thursday, the 27th, and that is from 4 to 6 p.m. We have another one in August. And what we're doing for those timeframes is we're adjusting some of our exhibits. Curatorial, education, visitor experience. A lot of staff has been involved in figuring out how we can make this a really welcoming experience for people. And so on a very practical level, the way we're approaching this for sensory friendly hours is to think about lighting in the exhibits, to think about sounds and volume in the exhibits, and to think about how to make those potentially less overwhelming for visitors. So again, on a very basic level, that means we're turning off some of the specific lights that are brighter or flashing. We're turning off some of the sounds that overlap with each other, which hopefully will allow visitors to more easily process the audio that they are hearing without becoming overwhelmed. So longer term, we're hoping to come up with a more steady schedule of sensory friendly hours. These 3 this summer are very much a pilot program for us. We're viewing these as a learning experience for us. And we're really hoping to get some feedback from visitors about what worked well, what we might be able to do differently in the future, and what people enjoyed.
How are you getting the word out about this opportunity?
So we have it on our website, on our calendar, on our social media. We have not done a really broad or strong push to advertise this because we're looking at them as pilot programs. And we wanted to give ourselves and give early visitors a chance to sort of try it out, figure out what, if any, adjustments we want to make going forward. But we're really hoping that as we go into the second one next week, a third one in August, that we'll get some additional foot traffic. We'll get some people who have feedback to share with us, and that we can make this an ongoing process.
Is it safe for me to invite people who are listening today to, if they themselves or someone they know who might want to check it out and see what it's like? Would you encourage them to come? Well, I don't want to overwhelm you because I know the 70 people on this call are all going to show up now. You're ready? Okay. Yes. Okay. Sarah's ready. Okay. So the other thing that you guys are doing to support this is you're providing packets online. And so I'm wondering, maybe Sarah, that if this is your area, if you could talk a little bit about that as helping. Part of this process is preparing people for their experience, because there are some, I'm guessing that there are some people who have never been to a classic museum experience because maybe they have never felt really comfortable, or, you know, one of the things I take for granted is I understand what I'm going to be facing when I walk into a museum. So I don't even think about what it means to prepare. So could you talk a little bit about the packets that you have available?
Absolutely. And thank you again for the invitation to talk about this work. It's really important for us. Kind of going back to an early, yes, we're old vessels, we're old ships, and those are really core stories. But I think part of where this journey where we're in right now is we've been trying to broaden the stories we tell. And when we do that, you broaden the audience that you engage with. So as we're kind of inviting new people into our museum, we're realizing the resources that we didn't have to support their needs, their experiences. So the social stories, which are these packets that you're referring to, is a tool that we did some research on what other museums are doing to help support people with sensory sensitivities, people on the spectrum, and exactly, I had the same reaction as you. I was like, oh, I don't even think about, not coming because it's overwhelming to think about having to do that in the first place. So what a social story is, if you're unfamiliar, is it's simply a PDF of photos that demonstrate rituals that visitors or guests or whatever your organization has to do to experience your institution. So what that means in our case is, what does it look like? What is the expectation socially to buy a ticket to our museum? What does it look like if you want to go on a cruise? What does that boarding process look like? Who are you going to engage with? Who are you required to engage with? What's optional? Things like that. And also we have a third one that's mostly just our grounds. We're 20 acres. And I think Chelsea mentioned this already, that we have so many different experiences here. We have traditional galleries, we have cruises, we have an outdoor historic site, we have a historic home. So there's so many different things. It's even disorienting to staff sometimes, like, oh my gosh, I forgot we had a historic home. So it's just a tool that's available on our website for free for download, that you can use to help mentally prepare for a visit. And again, it's very simple. It's just pictures with captions that kind of provides information of the steps to visit our museum. Kind of how we came to want to develop these. I mentioned we looked at good examples. We looked at the Metropolitan Museum. They have an amazing learning resource site for these type of resources. But really, as we were broadening and growing and opening back up after the pandemic, our education team, which is where the social stories generated from, we're seeing students in our camps, in our field trips, needing certain attention, or actually lack of attention sometimes, that we just weren't really prepared to offer or understood how to offer. So that's when myself and my team identified, like, okay, we need to do some learning, we need to do some research. And that's where we just saw these industry practices standards kind of evolving out of leading museums, and we just sought to emulate that. Yeah, and I'm going to hand it over to Chelsea here, but then my team, after doing these social stories, kind of looked into an organization called Culture City. That's culture with a K. Yeah, there it is in the chat. And what they specialize in offering resources and training to a lot of museums, actually. I think they have other non-museum organizations, aquariums, things like that. Basically, it's training for staff, and they offer sensory sensitivity bags that they'll send you. So now we have on-site resources as well. So resources to prepare for your visit, and then resources to use when you arrive here. And then we, as a visitor experience item, we kind of handed it over to the visitor experience team to take lead and kind of implement it. So I'll let Chelsea speak to that.
Yeah, so we are currently in the process of becoming certified with Culture City, which there's, as Sarah said, a staff training process. We will be training a lot of our volunteers as well. But what we already have are their sensory sensitivity bags. And so what those are is, it's a free resource that visitors can borrow. They don't need to sign up ahead of time. It's available whenever they would like. And these bags include, first and foremost, noise canceling headphones, which allow folks who might otherwise become overwhelmed to have that resource, to be able to take advantage of that. It also includes a couple different fidget toys, which can be helpful in those situations as well. We also include, it's a card that essentially can help nonverbal or lower verbal individuals to communicate their needs. Something as simple as an easy way to ask where the bathrooms are by using a card versus a conversation. So we've had some visitors taking advantage of these. We've been getting really great feedback. And I'm looking forward to keeping those available, growing that, and being able to keep that moving forward.
You guys, this is so great. And thank you. To me, you're an incredible leader for our Maine communities and making our spaces more welcoming. So thank you so much. And I could talk to you for a long time. And but part of the thing with MANP Connects is we want to give exposure to a lot of people, but there's a lot of chat, a lot of appreciation for your work and leadership in this area. And I suspect you're going to have some people coming in to experience this, personal stories of people who are really benefiting from your work. So thank you both for being incredible leaders. And I can't wait to go back to Maine Maritime Museum. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care. Oh gosh, it's so hard to jump from one and guess to another. This is a hard job, you guys. Hi, Marpheen. How are you, sir?
I'm good. My voice might be a little crackly because I think the smoke from the wildfires have gotten to me.
Oh, well, that's
I
okay.
was in DC when the first smoke hit DC area, so I think I've gotten like 3 waves of this smoke.
Yeah, it's following you. It's following you. You know, they say that smoke goes towards beauty, Marpheen.
I'll remember that.
Hi, everybody. Marpheen probably doesn't need much introduction, but he's joining us today through his leadership with the Khmer, Maine. And we're super excited to talk to him about the work that he's done around the Khmer New Year festival that's being held in Westbrook, and it happens in April. And because I want to get as much information and wisdom from you as possible, I'm going to expedite this by saying, tell us a little bit about the Khmer New Year festival, and why you decided to form one.
It goes back to I was in foster care from age 9 to 12, and adopted from by a family from well, still adopted by them since age 12. And in Acton, Maine, my first foster family when I was age 8 or 9, it was a hard transition from a diverse area like Portland to live in a place like Acton. And one of the things they did to help welcome us was in April, they all threw a Khmer New Year celebration school-wide in the elementary school for me and my sister, the only 2 Cambodian kids there. And so that has always stuck in my mind. And then since then, there was a slow decrease and loss of culture because of moving into different families, moving into different communities, and not necessarily the fault of the families that we were with, but just sort of a lack of awareness of the importance of culture, and especially to kids of color, of different backgrounds, living in really rural communities. So for me, Khmer, Maine, founding that organization in 2018. And then I think the one of the first pinnacles, shall I say, of the Cambodian communities is the big celebration last year. And then there was another celebration at the temple the year before. It has been bringing this to the broader Maine public, and the general public, inviting them. And then for me, the big piece was seeing the youth that were there, that were my age and older, exactly like me, who saw their culture celebrated not only by Cambodian Mainers, but also by folks from all different backgrounds. And for me, that was the teary moment, was, little Marpheens running all over the place, getting, seeing their culture, their heritage, their backgrounds celebrated, reported on in the Press Herald. Although I give Maine Public a little bit of a hard time, they didn't consider this news, so they didn't report on it. So if anyone knows anyone from Maine Public, give them my feedback. But that was the really important piece of why I have been committed to growing this organization from the ground up since 2018. As I joke to folks, I'm hoping to sunset my leadership here in the next 2 years in the Cambodian community, just because I think for a founder to be too involved for too long is actually harmful to an organization in the long term. And so I have to put them all on notice. I'm looking for one of you to be the next leader, and I'm willing to work with all of you to give you the skills to write grants, to give public speak and all those types of things. But Khmer New Year has been around for millennia, and is a 3-day, usually 3-day affair. On the first day, it's supposed to signify the coming of new angels that come and take care of the earth and the world and its people for the next year. And so the first day is a lot of cleaning the house, getting the house ready and communities ready to welcome these new angels, these new caretakers. The second day is sort of a mix of different activities, a lot of giving of alms to the temple and donations to the monks to help feed them, but also to help feed the new angels that are arriving. And then both the end of the second day and during the third day, there's a lot of building these mounds of sands to sort of bury past grievances or bury mistakes or things like that. And I'm sure many of you have experienced some of the same sort of kind of rituals in other religions as well. So that's a little background into Khmer New Year and why I find it so important.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I know that you relied a lot on collaborating and partnerships to make the festival successful. In particular, you've been able to make it a free event and open to all. And I wondered if you'd be willing to talk about how those were key in making the event successful, and in general, the mission, the broader mission of the organization.
So I'm young, I'm 32, but I have been, although some people say I look 26, but I have been in the nonprofit world since graduating law school in 2017. I've been on a number of boards for different nonprofits. And for me, one of the biggest gripes I have is, one, it's a good thing that Maine has so many nonprofits, as MANP knows. However, not all nonprofits want to work together and collaborate. And sometimes I think that hurts the community even more when folks don't pool resources and work together. So that's something I learned about nonprofits, at least in the greater Portland area, which it might not be intentional, but it's this whole scarcity model of competitiveness that creates this. And so among immigrant organizations, especially, there's so little to pull from that oftentimes communities are pitted against each other unintentionally, or maybe intentionally, who knows. So for me, partnerships was super important. And working with different organizations to put on this event specifically, I did some outreach to Big Brothers Big Sisters and Creative Works sometime in December, before that April, and I said, hey, we're planning to do the event in Westbrook, and we saw that you have parking lots right next to the big park.
Right. That's right.
And our people love to ride around and drive. They're not, I'm working on this, but they're not too keen on public transportation yet. As many of you might know, the genocide did affect income levels and socioeconomic status. So cars is a big status symbol among the community. And that's just a little bit of cultural background. So
Thank you.
I had reached out to Creative Works and Big Brothers and Sisters. They were like, yeah, go ahead, use our parking lots. And then working with the city of Westbrook really close to get them to understand what we wanted to do. Obviously, they were very open to this. They wanted this for a number of reasons. And apart from that, I think the biggest partnership that was our main concern was the temple, the Buddhist temple, which is located in Buxton, and a very traditional, a lot of older elders involved in that, and that this was a pinnacle of sort of the 5-year charm campaign that I had to do for the temple. When I first showed up in 2018, it was a very different reaction. I was with another founder person. You know, as many of you know, different people have different histories with different organizations, and there was some history that I didn't know about between the organization and the person. And I stepped into it, let's just say that, and found out. And soon after finding out, it was already hard enough that I don't have an accent. I don't speak Khmer a lot. And so from that moment when I had come into that meeting with to reset things with a lot of humility, saying, hey, you're one of the only few connections I have to my cultural background. I want to help you. I'm not here to steal your money. I'm not here to use your events to fundraise, which was one of the big concerns. And I'm not here to take over your temple. So after that reset, then over the years, we partnered, we built a good relationship, starting with COVID, helping them social distance, provide masks, health checkups during the big events, and just say, don't cram all the people into the little sanctuary you have there. And then that then allowed us to take the step of, hey, we love Khmer New Year. How can we help? So in 2021, this is 2023, 2022, we said we want to invite public officials to this event. So Governor Mills showed up, Secretary of State Sandra Bellows, who I used to work for at the Holocaust Museum, showed up. And so this was really the pinnacle of that partnership and that relationship and healing that had to happen. And it's really cross-generational. Khmer Maine tends to be skews younger, and then the temple skews a little older. So there's a bit of a cross-generational cultural clash at times of, you know, things should be this way, things should be that way. And we found a way to meet in the middle. And what they found out was by doing this event in Westbrook, one of the comments afterwards was, wow, a third of the people we saw here were people we haven't seen in 10 years engage with the temple. So that's the importance of partnerships, and obviously sponsorships was super important. Hannaford was a huge supporter, and they had a bunch of folks tabling, and next year we're hoping to work with some of their nutrition folks to kind of craft some recipes. And Luke's Lobster has always been a strong partner because a lot of their workers are Cambodian. And so we've been in contact with them for years and years. And eventually we want to get to the point where we recruit Cambodian youth to be a part of their lobstering program, for youth who don't have the family history of lobstering, helping them get sort of the training and the licensing for that. So that's the importance of partnerships for us.
Great. Well, thank you, Marpheen. Unfortunately, I can't believe I'm already hitting my time. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. That your leadership is remarkable. Thank you for being courageous and brave and stepping right into spaces where there's a lot of meaning for a lot of people, and the cross-cultural work that you're doing. I know it's clearly, obviously, you've already given examples of how it's benefiting Maine communities. So thank you. People can look forward to the New Year Festival next April in Westbrook. Is that right?
Yes, we are starting to plan on that, and that's one thing we're working with the temple on is planning committees.
Great. Excellent. And it is open to all, right? I think a
Yes.
little bit like I was saying with the museum, the Maritime Museum, you know, you make these assumptions that, oh, that's for people who like old boats, right? Like the festival is not just for people from the Cambodian community. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I was trying to find a picture before, and it might be in the Press Herald article about it, but for me, the other thing was seeing Black, Brown, Hispanic youth and their families also there, eating
Yes.
the food and dancing, and so it's open to all.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marpheen. Thank you again to Sarah, Chelsea, and Emily. All of you are doing such inspiring work. And I love my chat community. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. I hope you have a fabulous, weekend, July weekend in Maine. Kelly and I are looking for some ideas for our August theme for MANP Connects. So if you have any, please share them with us. And otherwise, thanks again to our friends at Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. And I'm going to sign off. Happy Friday. Bye, everybody.